Hello everyone and welcome for week 12, English 1510. A couple of things on here, housekeeping at the opening. Just a couple of minor things. There now is a discrepancy certainly between where certain students are in the term. We're coming to the last month of the class here, and for some students, they've kept right up along. I will say in my online sections, I have just over 80% of students all right up to date, doing the work, more or less correctly, keeping up on content, feedback, and all those things. But I do have another percentage where there's a smattering because of different issues health-wise, emergencies in families, and things like that are a little bit off, and then another smaller percentage, thankfully, of students just not doing work. I don't know what else to say to students in that category at this time, but the other categories, fortunately, make up closer to 90% of the class, so either completely keeping up the whole term and doing everything and following directions correctly, or close to, but because of some circumstances having resulted in a staggered timeline. Now, for students on feedback, I have most, if not all, of those things up to date. There are some here and there where I still have to post a few things. And for students with those, if there was any issue on some of those being back to you, I made arrangements or announcement on your file that you got the opportunity to still do a revision on something, or I didn't take points away on a different draft because of the submission timeline. For instance, on rhetorical analysis for some students, when the feedback files for rhetorical analysis launched back and came for those files in here, if you were moving on to another draft, that was already addressed in there and made sure that you knew that you had the opportunity still to do portion of the other piece there, or it was taken into consideration on the grading. So we're here in week 12. This says 6 through 12. It actually goes up through 13, and we are going to have a little bit of a difference here this week. I want to cover, as I said, a couple of things from last week, or just housekeeping in general. One thing is making sure everyone remembers this. For just over 2 months now, I've been asking students to message here in the D2L instant messaging rather than using email. I've been trying to catch back up with some of them that have still sent emails. The problem is, folks, that most of the students in those categories, still to this day, if students are sending email, they're not, the course and section number and things are not included. They get buried in threads. I had 3 students where I found emails where the subject line said hi, or English class, or something along those lines. Hi is certainly going to get buried as a subject line, meaning you're giving me a salutation of hello. Remember, I have more than 100 students in different areas, and for composition 1 alone this term, I have more or less 70-80 students, probably 120 total of my students, and about 80 of them in Comp 1 level right now. But sending messages through here, folks, I check these on, if not a daily basis, then the only time I have gaps on there really is on the weekend. Otherwise, I'm in constant contact with students, and I'm looking back through, and some students still have sent an email well after I've asked for this to be messaging through here. And again, the only reason I switched to this is because there was such an issue with messages from students at the beginning of the term, not following directions on what the messaging requirements were. First and foremost, don't respond to threads, don't respond to mass messages that I send out to a class. That was the first 20 or so emails that I found at the starting point of the semester were all ignoring those. They were all in response to threads, or they were all in mass email ones where you're responding to each other's different threads and things that were from mine that I sent out, and then other students sending things where the subject line, this is the class and section number, this information up here, and then supposed to list also what your content issue is. But again, we're well past that, folks. Messaging here is where we want to correspond back and forth. It's between us and this platform. I don't have to sort through 50 other emails to find your individual student ones. Particularly if you have some issue in the semester. Message me here. We'll make other arrangements if we need further communication through something else, including Zoom sessions. But I've offered up Tuesdays where I've been meeting with students at 1 o'clock. Some students have taken me up on it. It's been fewer the last 2 weeks now. It started off pretty good. Now it's not as many. But in any event, now we're here in week 12. I want to cover a quick recap of the prior 2 weeks just to clarify some things here. I have a couple of students where there does seem to be a great deal of confusion. The majority of students had no issue with submitting this portion last Monday, the 20th. This is the summary and working thesis piece that was due March 20th for all students. I've gone through about probably 30-40% of them already. I'll be sending out feedback on those over the next few days to the end of the week. This included all these components here in third person, and then your first 5 sources that you were doing out of your peer-reviewed, full text available sources out of the OCC databases. That was supposed to be submitted, as I said, on the 20th. I have some students who, 17 in one class out of 22 or 23 on roster. 17 submitted exactly what they're supposed to be. The other class roughly the same on roster and in the one online class with about 19 submissions there. So those were all on point, exactly what they're supposed to be. And then some students didn't submit at all, and then others submitted parts of this, but you wrote it in first person saying I, and then second person you, which does not apply. And then not including the works cited of first sources. I want to say this. I know there were some points of confusion on this. So if you did miss the works cited, the 5 sources for the summary and working thesis, go ahead and submit the works cited page of your first sources into that first Dropbox. And I'll go back through and I'll look those over and make sure that I try and get those checked in with those. And I will not take a deduction for those that weren't there last week. The only caveat is if you need to submit this portion into last week's Dropbox, put an instant message here in D2L. Give me a message here at the top and let me know that you've submitted that works cited page. The second thing that is due this Monday, the 27th, is the primary points of support. Remember, those were in the same Dropbox, or I should say 2 different Dropboxes with the same instructions on here. It was just to make sure that everybody understood there were 2 pieces coming. Now this week, this is the piece that you're completing, this portion right here. Primary points of support with works cited, but now for this works cited page, it's a minimum of 10 preliminary sources. Remember that the works cited pages must be in MLA format. It's clear that some students aren't doing the reading out of the textbook or watching these overview videos because 2 weeks in a row I gave examples of citations being added here. MLA format, Times New Roman, left-hand margin and justified. Alphabetical order for the citations, and every line after the first in each entry must be a hanging indent. I did that on both prior week videos, and there is an image of that and the instructions of it in your assigned reading in your textbook that covers MLA in your textbook on writing today. So make sure that you've gone over those, folks, because some students clearly ignored that altogether. These primary points of support, these are the topic sentences. These should be claim statements. If you want to fill them out as, one benefit of daily exercise for both physical and mental health is the following. Another benefit of daily physical exercise for mental and physical health is this. And a third one is the following. Just use them, give them as declarative statements. I have some of you who had points of confusion on this. Not extreme. I only had 2 students in one class and 3 in another that really seemed to either not understand or just not follow the directions on these. So make sure that you're following the guidelines on those. That's what's due tomorrow evening. This is Sunday that I'm recording this new message. Monday, March 27th by 11:30 p.m. This piece is due. Now, the new one that we're doing for this week, there are a couple of things that I need to note on here. This is listed for week 12 on this. research paper outlines with abstract and works cited of 15 sources. Now, you'll note that this is not due next Monday. This is going to be due Monday, April 10th. So you actually have a week between that you don't have an assignment due. Make sure there are no new videos to watch and there are no new readings that I'm giving you guys. So make sure that you've covered all of those videos in the content folder above so you understand how you're doing your research. And then also make sure you're actually reading your peer-reviewed sources out of those OCC databases, right? You were instructed to go to the student services, use the library selection here, search your topic, and after you search your topic, you were to apply filters, the minimum of which were the full text available and peer-reviewed sources only. I told you that it was a good idea to customize the window in terms of the time date for when these would be articles written, and then go from there. We've just dropped this down, I forget what it was, 20 some down to 14. Make sure you're going through those, and then you have citation function available for all of these. So if it's a viable source, 8th edition, you copy and paste that onto your works cited page. This outline with abstract, this, as I said, is due, this is available today, March 27th, the primary points of support with works cited. Those will be in there. Those are due March 27th by 11:30 p.m. I will be responding first to summary and working thesis, and then primary points of support with works cited page. I will be just grading those as check-in for credit. Okay? Make sure you note, I'm not going through on a bunch of the sentence level things. It should be very straightforward that these are independent clauses, declarative statements for topic sentences. Okay? This week, that the assignment portion here has the research paper with abstract and works cited. Now, I need to switch to instructor view to be able to show you the Dropbox here, and this will be open by the time you guys are looking at the actual Dropbox for this and looking this over. You guys have the video here that it covers the instructions for this part of the assignment. Please make sure that you watch that. You download the abstract template. It's concluded, it's overviewed right here. Make sure that you remove any examples before adding your own. I give examples in each one of these categories. It's a black field with white writing. Yours will be reverse of this. This is just what I do, so it's with the sample pieces that I do. You guys have seen these before me. Make sure that you're reading through these, read through all the instructions, follow that video, what it covers in here and what the requirements are. It's a lot of instruction and a lot of primary content things that you have to make sure that you're covering for the semester. This topic here was removed, so make sure that you note that. I went with that's the only one that I removed from this primary list. The other ones were all viable topics, right? Make sure that you review all of these. Make sure that you watch the instructional video for this piece. And remember, there are a lot of requirements. There's a lot that goes into this part of it. If you did your summary and working thesis and original sources correctly, and then you did your primary points of support and works cited page there, you should be on a nice starting point for this outline. You have 2 weeks that you'll be putting this together, so make sure you cover everything on here, because once these are finished and they're checked in, we will move right to a drafting stage. And if you do this outline correctly, every one of these categories on there are filled out correctly, and you have met all the requirements for quotes and major and minor support and follow the citations correctly. If you do all of that, your paper will essentially be written. You'll have all the content that you need, and you'll be able to transfer that from one file to the next and be able to put that on there. The quick note on here, the above video, this one refers to week 11, but for the online classes of the term, it's assigned at the beginning of week 12, and the due date is April 10th. Okay? If you have questions, let me know in instant messaging above. I am still posting some of the final draft grades on some students' memoir, final draft even. Most of those are up, though. And the rewrites, though, I'm opening this up for the rewrite grade to go to the 17th, not the 10th. So we'll have additional time on there. All right? Good luck.